Have you ever thought about the term itself, gross? We are all together working our things off to achieve something gross every day. We measure how fast money moves in a society. And when we measure in terms of money, we're actually looking at what is the price of the things we buy and exchange every day. Those prices are the most important indicators of the things we transact, we exchange. Trees only count if they are trashed, destroyed, and sold. If you grow trees, your wealth doesn't increase. If you chop them off and sell them, it does. So GDP gives us an incentive to destroy the natural beauty because that's the only way in which you can turn it into money. If you Google GDP in inverted commas, it will give you more or less 36 million hits on the internet. It's the most common acronym on the internet. Let's compare it to something else. Let's compare it, for instance, to human development. Human development gives you 5 million hits. If you Google something like democracy, it still gives you just 1 million hits more than GDP. If you Google happiness, it will give you 74 million websites. So if you Google sex, actually, it will give you 799 million hits. And even among scientists, this is some Google books. GDP basically started only in the 60s and to become part of our jargon. And look at how steep that increase has been in our books. There are more books about GDP than books about corruption, inequality, economic growth, governance, climate change, well-being, and so on and so forth. It's only overtaken slightly by human rights, but the curve is going up for GDP. So even the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development says that GDP, if there ever was a controversial icon from the statistics world, GDP is it. It measures income but not equality. It measures growth but not destruction, and it ignores values like social cohesion and the environment. And here's the most important sentence. Yet governments, businesses, and most people probably swear by it. The biocapacity of the planet going down while GDP goes up. Even climate change, CO2 emissions, and GDP go hand in hand with one another. In 2009, look at that. When GDP went flat, immediately CO2 emissions around the world stayed flat. You want to save the environment? Stop GDP from growing. It's the only thing that has an immediate effect on our CO2 emissions. Inequality. Inequality has been growing steadily on par with GDP since the 1960s. The OECD wrote reports that nobody read showing us how that growth was generating inequality back in 2008 and 2011. And you know, these pictures you've seen many times, right? This is California, Beverly Hills, Santa Barbara, and so on and so forth. But look at what happened now with climate change, the droughts. This is California before and after the droughts. These are pictures taken just a few months ago, before and after. Some leaders around the world started questioning at least the way in which we measure things. And here are some of these leaders, including Ban Ki-moon of the United Nations. And you know, you've seen that there have been attempts at generating different indicators of what progress is, generating different trains. So measuring the causes of certain things, trying to measure well-being, genuine progress, gross national happiness. So there's a variety of attempts out there. What they all have in common, and here are some examples from the OECD, your Better Life Index, they say there's more to life than the cold numbers of GDP and economic statistics. But this is basically telling us that if we were measuring the economic value of many things we do at home, that would greatly outpace the economic value of many things calculated in GDP. And this is the United Nations telling us that the real value is not what we produce. It's the natural resources we have and the human capital we have, the people. The people and the natural resources are the real value. The economy is a system of social organization. It's a way of telling us what to do, right? It's a system of organizing us so that we don't kill each other. That's what it is. Politics is not the structure of society. The structure of society is what we see in the economy. So the sandwich model is something very simple, but it's basically the idea that change happens when two forces come together. One is the pressure from the bottom. You cannot let your politicians off the hook. You have to tell them GDP is wrong. You have to question that. You have to push them. And at the same time, what happens when you keep pushing and pushing and pushing, that at times you get somebody from up there that gets it. And when those two things come together, especially in times of crisis like the ones we're living through now, then change really is possible. And I believe our time is right now. There's a rise of human and ecosystem well-being discussion around the world. Alternative indicators are being introduced in the US. This is from Maryland. The European Commission has said we have to consider moving beyond GDP. We're investigating other indicators. Paraguay has decided well-being will be what leads Paraguay. So go Paraguay. Perhaps they're going to lead the world in one way or another. Bolivia has done other interesting and has introduced other interesting legislation in terms of saving nature as an economic asset, not just as something you look at, but something that can actually generate well-being and prosperity for society. Ecuador has incorporated the preservation of parts of their forests in the constitutions. Our opportunity is not in 10 years, in 5 years. Our opportunity is now, right now, every single day. This is the message. If you change GDP, you change your set of glasses. You see the world one way because your glasses are broken. Get a new set of glasses, you're going to see the world in a different way. If you do that, you will act differently. You will put pressures on people in a different way, on your leaders in a different way. Your leaders will realize certain things, and certain things will no longer be acceptable. The new standards will change the way we see things, will change our objectives, will change our behaviors, and there will be a trickle-down. This is the only trickle-down that really works. The trickle-down effect in society, by which many other things will change, and that GDP train will crumble and disappear, and the new train will be able to go. Thanks.